Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to prep and foil two different type of gemstones. I have a lapis lazuli and a moonstone in two different sizes. You need to have an adequate width foil tape to ensure you are forming a bezel big enough to cover the front and the back of your gemstone. Give yourself a little wiggle room so that you have enough to work with your gemstone, but not too much that you are going to completely cover your gemstone. Measuring your tape also allows you to not waste additional material. Before you begin foiling, you need to ensure that your gemstones are clean and free from all residual oils. If you skip this step, you're going to have a hard time, and you will find out really quick what happens if you add tape before doing this part. The best method I found is to either grab a piece of paper towel or a cotton ball, dip it in alcohol, then completely clean the gemstones front and back. Once your objects are clean, you should try to handle them as least as possible. That's why I pre-measure the tape before doing so. You should also make sure that your hands are clean or you are wearing gloves throughout this entire process. To begin foiling, peel off just one end. Do not peel the entire thing because copper tape is very sensitive and it will wrinkle on you and lose tact. I like to think of it as driving down a highway. Your gemstone is your car, so I like to face it away from me, whereas the tape are the lanes. I put the flat back right down the center, and then I start rolling towards me while keeping 50% of the tape on one side and then the other 50% of the tape towards the back side. And then I continue doing so, keeping these ratios and carefully rolling without having to undo too much because it will create wrinkles. If you need to unpeel, you can do so before finishing. And then if you have too much extra, it is best to trim rather than recover because it does make soldering a lot harder. Basically, the solder starts lifting the tape and then your whole piece just needs to be redone. Your next step is to burnish your copper tape down so that it's completely adhered to your gemstone. I am using an agate point, and this allows me to control the wrinkles on the tape. First, you want to make sure that all ends of your tape are completely adhered or flat, as close to the stone as possible. This allows less work once you start burnishing because sometimes the tape tends to roll in itself, so then you have to unstick it and then smooth out the wrinkles. The best method I found is to work out your wrinkles, bubbles, and all the smoothness is by working with the outer layer first. So start with your edges, get those wrinkles out, smooth it as much as possible, turning your object constantly so that the light hits at different angles and then you can properly see everything that you're working with. And then once all the edges are smooth, then I lead my agate burnisher to the center. Then I work the wrinkles out to the back. The back is the one part that, for most projects at least, are seen the least. So when you wear your pendant or ring, everyone's going to look at the top or the front. You want this to be as pleasing as possible. So the back, it tends to be the one that gets the least amount of work. It is also where most of the wrinkles go to just because of the way the shape is. Now, if you do not have a faceted gemstone like a cab where the back is flat and it's like a rounded gemstone all around, it's a different process and it's going to look a lot more smoother and nicer. So because the back tends to be more crowded, you are going to have more wrinkles. But if you do not take an extra step in this section, when you solder it, the whole tape lifting issue I mentioned before, this is where the biggest problem is going to occur. So if you think you're done burnishing, just take an extra 5 minutes and then continue burnishing down. If you see any spots or bubbles or lifting, just burnish it, burnish it, burnish it. Continue going around until you are completely done, and then just give it one extra pass, and then trust me, you'll be thanking me that you took that extra 5 minutes to finish your stone. This moonstone is a little flatter. It is still a cab, but because the width and height of the gemstone is different, you're gonna have to work with a different width size of tape, and also method in the way you apply everything. For things like this where it's a lot harder to measure, working with your tape directly sometimes can lead to waste of material because the tape will wrinkle. So I just like to grab a scrap of paper, measure it that way. Sometimes the string works better, or cord. And then once you have your initial measure, grab that, then put it against your actual copper tape you're going to be using, and then cut to size. So this way you are not wasting material, and then you're getting a precise measurement, or just about. Remember, it is better to cut just a little more than have less, because having gaps or having to add an additional piece of copper tape to join the two ends, it is not going to work well when you solder. So again, the tip needs to come off just a little bit, not all the way, enough to just adhere to the gemstone. Treat your cab like it's a car on a highway. Start with one piece first, just a small piece, wherever you feel comfortable is going to work for you. Put it away from you, and then peel off and go down the road as you go, keeping 50% on the front, 50% on the back. If you want to leave a little more on the back, you can do so. This just means that your bezel is going to be a little smaller on the front, which makes the gemstone a little more visible. This is great for flashy gemstones, or if you're going with a different look. So if you have too much extra, I recommend you cut it off, but you always want to have just a little wiggle room to have the end copper tape to go over your first end that you tape down. Those two pieces should be joined together. So like I previously showed you, first make sure that everything's kind of facing down towards the gemstone. Adhere to the stone as much as possible. Then you start with your front, work front, middle to back, with the outermost part of your tape facing out. That one should always go down first. Burnish that, then work your center, then work your back. Experience in this part is key. You want to make sure that your bezel looks even on all sides of your gemstone, but that takes a little practice. At the beginning, when you first start foiling, if it seems like it's a little uneven, you can grab an X-Acto knife and cut around the edges to make it look more even. Using an X-Acto knife also can be tricky because you can scratch your gemstone, so keep that in mind. Another great troubleshooting tip is if your tape looks like it's not adhering properly, you have either a very dirty gemstone which wasn't cleaned properly, your hands are slightly oily and is transferring some of that to your gemstone and tape, you undid the tape a little too much during the foiling process and it has lost tact. So instead of wasting an hour trying to fix that issue, your best bet is to unfoil and start with a new piece again. There is nothing that you can do to keep that tape down once the previous issues were mentioned. Some questions I've gotten about copper tape is which ones do I use? I have mine listed in my Amazon affiliate links. Any conductive copper tape works. There are some specifically for stained glass. They have the black backing. It's just for aesthetics because of the type of finish used in stained glass. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment. I'll try to answer as much as I can. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, I hope you like, subscribe, and keep on following for more. Thank you.